Hi, this is Mark Wiltshire. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Explore Finland radio show. This is not the start of a new series. This is something a little bit special. I've been asked to put together a pilot series for a new podcast called Ähtäri Zoo Podcast. Ähtäri is a zoo in Etelä-Pohjanmaa, not too far from where I live in Seinäjoki, and they're looking at ways they can reach a new audience, and they liked what I did with Explore Finland. They asked me to put something together specifically focusing on the area of Ähtäri, where there's a zoo. They have the new Panda house at Ähtäri Zoo, and there's a small resort growing around there. Lots of things to do to pass away a weekend or even a week's holiday. So I've put together on the Explore Finland radio show a highlights package of the 3 interviews that I first recorded at Ähtäri Zoo. Each one was about half an hour long. I've cut about 10 minutes of each together for you here today as a bit of a trailer, a bit of a teaser. Hopefully, if you're one of those people that's been saying to me they want more, then hopefully this will give you a little bit more. It's very similar format to Explore Finland, so search for Ähtäri Zoo Podcast on your podcast player and you should find it there. Please subscribe and please let me know that you're listening. So let's head over now to the interviews, and then at the end there'll be a few personal messages for one or two of you listening. I'm joined today by Satu Keski-Valkama, who is a tourism development project manager here at Ähtäri Zoo. Hi, Satu.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting me here today.
It's nice to have you. Yeah, about the springtime. Well, actually, now that we have snow pandas, we have bears that don't go asleep during the winter time. But our another highlights of the zoo are the brown bears that hibernate during the winter time, and we have this quite big happening. Right after the brown bears awaken from hibernation. So, and often we do have snow when they wake up. So it's nice to see them playing in the snow, and people are happy. And
what happens at this event that
when
on? What happens there? So that they wake up. People come to see the bears having just woken up. Is there something going on around the zoo at the same time?
We have guides here around the zoo, and the guides are telling more about the exact bears.
But people come there especially to see the bears.
Yes. Yeah, and it's all over the news.
The bears have woken up.
Yeah, the bears are waking up, yeah.
You mentioned snow pandas, and we're going to cover this in one of the later episodes of this podcast. What is a snow panda?
So we have named our pandas snow pandas because they are the northernmost pandas in whole Europe. And actually, pandas do love snow, so they just go and make roly-polies, and it's really fun to see them enjoying their life outside.
And like you said, they're bears that don't hibernate, so they're doing their thing throughout the winter.
Yeah.
Not just in springtime when the brown bears wake up.
Yeah, that's true.
What would you recommend that somebody does in the summertime?
Yeah, I would. First of all, I would recommend people to visit the zoo. It's really nice to take walk through the lush park. Besides that, I would maybe book a cottage or rent a villa, because we have several types of accommodation here available, actually next to the zoo and by the lake, so you can spend your Finnish style holiday here in Ähtäri, all from hotel rooms to, for example, camping, something for everyone.
And you mentioned about walking around the zoo. It's quite a big area. You've got a couple of paths that go around the zoo, walking you past the different enclosures.
Yeah.
How far do people have to walk when they come to the zoo to get around and see all the animals?
Yeah, the main route is 3 kilometers in length, and then we have also a shorter one it's something like 1.2 kilometers, and I think it's suitable for people with small kids. But actually, if you just have time, so with kids, it's also nice to take the longer route. If you have, for example, some picnic with you.
So you can come here, stay more than one day, and actually really take your time and take a walk around the park.
Yeah,
I like this idea of a picnic. So you can bring something with you and stop at one of these picnic areas.
Yeah.
Is it just open your picnic basket and eat from there, or is there somewhere to actually have a rest? Or
yeah, we have sort of shelters there on the way, and they are all available for the customers, and we also have wood there, so you can make a bonfire.
So this in Finnish is called a laavu.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite things of being out in the woods is when you come across one of these shelters, and you said there's a firewood there.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this is such a typically Finnish thing that you go to a zoo and there's a place where you can actually start a fire and cook some sausages or whatever over the fire.
Yeah. So about the zoo, people might think that it's crowded, but I think this Ähtäri Zoo is more like a wildlife park sort of way. Like it's like a safe way for you to visit Finnish nature, like make a day tour
and see animals in their more natural environment.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the petting farm or the petting zoo that comes kind of at the end of the path around the main part of the zoo, and this is all domestic animals.
Yeah.
And it's a really charming area. There's a traditional Pohjanmaa, the region that we're in now, farmhouse from this region that's been moved there, and then there's the stables, and they're all kind of around the courtyard with animals in all the different stables.
Yeah, and during the summertime we have a cafe here, and also
they're in the petting zoo.
Yeah, they're in the main building. Yeah, the red wooden one. Yeah, and also a shop with nice local products.
And we mentioned so we're kind of taking a virtual walk around the zoo a little bit.
Yeah.
We've come to the end of that, and we're back at the zoo shop and also the zoo restaurant.
Yeah.
Today I'm joined by Heini Niinimäki. Heini, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Heini is the zoological director here at Ähtäri Zoo.
One Finnish animal which is very important for us is Finnish forest reindeer. Looks quite much like the regular reindeer you can see in Lapland, but actually it's not the same.
Okay,
animal.
How is it different?
Well, it's genetically different, of course, and it has a little bit longer legs and a little bit different shape of the horns and so on. And the reindeers in Lapland, they live usually in open areas at the small mountains. And Finnish forest reindeers, as the name tells you, they live in the forest and a little bit in southern areas of Finland. And actually, those were once extinct from Finnish nature, but now some of the animals has came back from Russia, and we also have this project where we introduce them back to the nature. And this is one of the most important species conservation projects where we are involved, and that's why this species is very special for us.
Yeah, okay. So there, at one stage there were none in Finland. There were some in Russia. You brought them back.
Well, actually, they came
by themselves. Okay.
yeah, but they didn't come to all the areas they used to be. So that's what we are trying to do, to increase the amount of those animals in those areas where they used to live a long time ago, and try to make it more like it should be.
What kind of numbers are there now of these animals?
Now I have to say that I don't remember exactly, but I can check it for you.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah, but the number is a lot better than it used to be.
Yes.
Like 20 years ago.
Yes, okay. And maybe you've started to answer a question that's in my mind, which is about the role of zoos in modern eras. You know, when zoos first started 150 years ago, maybe Victorian times from British history. They were places where you had these exotic animals, and people came and stared at the animals, and that kind of zoo seems to have a negative image nowadays. What is the role of a zoo in modern days?
Yeah, exactly. I think that the role of the zoos has been evolving a lot, and I think it's a good thing, and we should keep evolving more, because nowadays I think that the most important role of the zoos is to promote species conservation, make things that keep the biodiversity as high as possible, and so on. So zoos can actually do it by many different ways. One important thing how zoos can help species conservation is that we keep an insurance population of animals. So animals that are extinct or near extinct or threatened in the nature, the zoos in different parts of the world, we together keep a population of the animals which can be used to help those animals living in the nature. So this is how we can try to avoid a situation where the whole species would disappear from the world. And we can also be involved in those projects where we reintroduce animals to nature. And one important thing is that zoos have an opportunity to do research with different species, and those results can actually help the protection of those species in the nature.
Can you give an example of that?
Of research, yeah. For example, many of the research that is used to protect pandas are actually made with the animals inside zoos. So that is why we have learned a lot about their breeding and things that might change their behavior in the nature and so on. And those things can be used when people plan how to protect animals in their natural environments. And there are many genetic researches where we try to find out that how diverse some species are, because of course it's not enough to have many animals. We of course want to have also genetically diverse animals so that the species is able to survive from the changes. So that is one thing that the zoos can also do. Actually, there are so many of those that we could spend a whole day talking about that, but those are a couple of examples.
Yeah, I think pandas being in captivity, being bred in captivity, it's maybe one of the more high-profile instances of that. And whenever a panda is born in a zoo around the world, it seems to make the news headlines around the world as well.
Yeah, and especially 10, 20 years ago, breeding pandas in the zoos was very difficult and the success was not that good. But during these years and with the research, we have learned so much about their behavior and what kind of things they want and need in a zoo and in the nature, that actually the results are now a lot better.
So there are more being bred?
Yeah, and also previously it was they always had to use artificial insemination to have a baby, or nearly always. But now that we know better how to take care of them, it's getting less and less important, the artificial insemination, and we are able to breed them more naturally usually. And that's our goal also. We hope that these animals will breed naturally without our interference.
You're learning how to get the pandas in the mood for love. Okay, that's a good thing.
That's very important.
It is important. Yeah, I did say to a colleague of mine this week that, if they want to help pandas breed, surely moving them to a cold country like Finland isn't the best way to do it.
No, that is exactly one good way to do it, because they want to have the spring. They want to have the increase of the light and increase in the temperature. That's one of those things that set them into the right mood.
Well, that's really interesting, because my colleague is from Switzerland, and she said, hey, in Switzerland, after we have a very cold winter, the next autumn there are always lots of babies born. So maybe it's a similar thing.
Might be. And actually, when you were talking about the zoos in history, when the main point was that people went there to just look at special animals, so still it is kind of important thing also, but the point is totally different than it used to be, because one of the most important things the zoos have to do is to educate people, tell them about species conservation and how to protect environment and how to save species and what is the situation today. And that is actually even more important, I think, than many of those issues we maybe talk about more.
That's really interesting. So in a way, you're inspiring future generations.
We try to. Yeah. That's very important part here, and that is something that pandas are very good doing it, because they really help us making the point and give us more opportunities to talk about the issues that are very relevant right now.
But not just relevant to the pandas, but relevant to the other animals you've got here, like the forest reindeer. As well.
And all the animals actually, and the whole nature. So panda is kind of a example species also. As you know, panda is also in the logo of WWF.
The World Wildlife Fund.
Yeah, exactly. So panda has kind of been the ambassador of species conservation for decades already. And still, we can use panda as an example and tell people more about the situation in the world where actually many species are in the risk of getting extinct.
So today I'm joined by Anna Palmroth. She's the head panda keeper here at Ähtäri Zoo. Anna, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're in kind of the viewing gallery.
Yeah.
In this panda house. Like you said, there's a lot of glass around the two enclosures.
Yes.
And at the moment the pandas are in two separate enclosures within the same building.
Yes. Pandas are separate because when they grow up and when they leave their mother, they will find their own territory. So they are not living in groups when they have reached the age about 2 to 3 years old. They start living on their own, and especially the males are quite strict about their own territory.
Okay.
So it's the same in a lot of bears. Different kind of bears, they always usually live alone when they grow up.
And inside these two enclosures, it's kind of landscaped, like a rocky, mountainous kind of environment?
Yes, because pandas in the wild in China, they live up in the mountains. So pandas do not live in rainforests or that kind of environment. They live up in the mountains where there's also a lot of rocks and bamboo trees and forests growing, and they have actually a lot of snow in the winter up in the mountains.
So being in Finland is not a strange environment for pandas to live?
No, it's actually quite a natural environment for them. The climate is quite good. Pandas in the wild, if there comes too much snow or the temperature gets too low for the bamboo to grow, they go a little bit lower on the mountainside, and during the summertime they climb up.
When it gets too hot, they go higher, and when it gets too cold, they come down.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
And outside, you said it's one of the larger kind of panda enclosures in a zoo around the world, and it's a similar kind of environment, isn't it? It's a slope, it's mountainous. Okay, they've got some nice wooden climbing frames that you'd see in a children's park out there, but there's quite a bit to keep them entertained.
Yes, pandas need a lot of climbing trees and stuff like that for the enrichment, because in the wild pandas love to climb up in the trees.
Is that for food or for fun?
It's for fun, because the food is found lower.
Okay.
Because the bamboos are about 2 meters long or 3 meters, so the species that pandas love to eat. But the panda babies also climb up in the trees. When they learn to walk, they learn to climb.
Okay.
And they sleep in the trees, and they wait for their mother up at the tree because they're safe there.
Yeah. Okay.
So pandas love to sleep a little bit higher always, so that's why we need to make sure that they have enough places where they can go sleeping so that they don't have to sleep on the floor or on the ground.
We've mentioned Puru twice, but in the other enclosure is Lumi.
Yes.
So Puru is the male and
Yes.
Lumi is the female, and she's sleeping.
Yes, Lumi is, her Chinese name is Jimbabao, which means kind of a golden baby or a sweet girl or sweet baby, if we translate it. And she really is like her name. She's really sweet and kind and quite shy and loves to sleep and loves to play with her toys and really girly girl.
Yeah.
But then we have Puru Huabao, and his Chinese name is Chinese Leopard, which is actually also quite close because he's really like a big man and a big male, and he loves to climb, and he also destroys a lot of trees and
As well as the bamboo that he's destroying for lunch, he's
Yes.
actually quite destructive.
yes, and he loves to eat. He's waiting for the food all the time.
So they've got really distinctive personalities, how
Really.
they behave.
Yes, really different kind of individuals. And Puru has a little bit of puberty right now, so he's already waiting for Lumi's company, and
Okay.
because they get to see each other outside. So
They can see each other, but they can't get to each
no,
other.
they cannot touch each other,
Yes.
but they get to see and smell each other and communicate. So he's often found outside waiting for Lumi and looking up to her enclosure.
Oh, that's really
But
sweet.
yeah, but Lumi is not quite ready yet.
Okay.
So we'll have to wait for a year or two. So she doesn't quite understand yet what Puru wants. So we have this kind of setup where the other one wants and knows, but the girl is not that interested yet.
And you've got your panda baby hospital downstairs already.
Yes. It's a part of the contract with the Chinese Conservation Center that we have everything ready, what we need before the pandas arrive to a new zoo, so that if something happens and when the babies come, we have everything ready for them.
Wow, that would be exciting. I can see also there's running water
Yes.
in the for drinking, or just to mimic the local the native environment.
Yeah, it's just for mimicking, and the pandas also like to drink from it, but they also have the drinking cups there. But it's mostly because up in the mountains they have a lot of small streams,
Yes. Yeah.
and pandas use it for marking their territory. They use the running water because if they're higher in the mountains, they mark their territory on the water and on the small streams.
So between this stream and this stream is mine.
Yeah, and when the scent goes down with the water, the other pandas lower up on the mountain know that who's living upstairs.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. These two are here from China for, is it 15 years?
Yes.
Agreement.
Yes, the first contract is for 15 years, but usually almost all of the zoos that has pandas have continued the contract after the 15
Okay.
years. So it's possible for us that the pandas will stay here as long as they live.
Yeah. And how long do they live? How you said that Puru's a teenager.
Yeah,
Now.
he's now 5 years old.
Right. Okay. And how old can they live?
They can live up to 30 years
Okay.
in a human care, and in the wild it's quite difficult to tell the exact, but it's about 20 years in the wild. So
And what if they have babies?
the babies also belong to China.
Right. Okay.
Yes, and they will return to China in about 2 to 3 years old,
Right. Okay.
and they get to go to these conservation centers.
Yes.
And hopefully they will get to continue this program where they send the cubs back to the nature, so they get to be involved with that program. But we'll see what happens.
And do you know how many pandas there are in the wild in China now compared to when this conservation was started?
There's now a little bit under 2,000 individuals in the wild, and it has been increasing during these years quite a lot. I think the most critical phase with the pandas as a species was the time when they had just over a little bit of 1,000
Okay.
individuals in the wild.
So the population's doubled.
Yeah, almost.
Due to the conservation.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it has been increasing a lot.
Yeah.
And WWF has done a great work with this species as well, and the Chinese government, and they have put a lot of effort to this, and they've started the conservation centers and started to really trying to make sure that this species stays vital.
So let's hope that you have work looking after these pandas
Yes.
in the near future. Puro is in and out constantly. He's either sitting just in front of us, eating, or he's outside running around. So he seems very happy.
Yes, and especially now when the winter is starting, when the snow comes, they love to play outside and they love to play with the snow.
Really?
Yes, they really do.
Are they throwing snowballs at each other through the fence?
No, they don't do that. But actually, Lumi is gathering the snow and making big snowballs for
Really?
herself, and she carries them around and
No.
she brings them inside. And yes, and last winter I made snowmen for them for the outdoor enclosures.
Yeah.
Of course, they eat the carrot nose first.
Yeah.
And after that, they usually take the head
Yeah.
and play with it because it's like a big ball.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they love to play with it.
This is your job.
Yes. They actually pay me for
They
doing
do.
the snowman.
Long may it last, because it seems like you're really enjoying it, and clearly they're thriving.
Yeah.
In this panda house and in this environment. So.
Yes, and I'm also really happy that I get to work with the conservation project, and I'm really happy that we have the pandas in Finland also for our next generations, because when they come here and they get to see the pandas and they learn about the conversation and they learn how to protect the environment and to protect different kind of species, I think the world has a brighter future, that they would do things even better than we do now. So the pandas are, I call them ambassadors for the conservation for the next generations, because they have a big influence to the younger people and for the children when they come here and they see the pandas. They see them live, they don't have to watch them from YouTube.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so thanks again to Satu, Heini and Anna for giving me the time for their interviews. I just wanted to say a few mentions to people that are listening. I hope this has gone some way to keeping you happy. Håkon in Norway and Sophie in New York, both of who tell me from time to time that they want more podcasts. Sorry they haven't been as regular as you guys would like, but hopefully this goes some way to helping. And I also wanted to say thank you to Tapio from Seinäjoki. Actually, Tapio's in Lapua, so that makes a difference to people around here. So Tapio told me that when I started the Explore Finland radio show, he'd never heard of podcasts, but because I happened to mention it to him when we spoke, he's now as addicted as most of us are to listening to podcasts. So Tapio, you're welcome. Thanks again for listening to the Explore Finland radio show. Remember to head over to the Ähtäri Zoo Podcast, subscribe to that, let me know what you think. Use that hashtag Ähtäri Zoo Podcast, tag me at Explore Finland, and tag the zoo at Ähtäri Zoo. Let us all know that you found it, that you're listening to it, and whether you like it or not. And until next time I speak to you on Explore Finland radio show, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.